A young couple gets married and goes on their honeymoon. The following morning, the bride walks out of the shower, naked. The husband says, "Stop." He grabs his camera and takes a quick photo. She asks him why he took a photo when he can see her naked at any time. That he says, "So I can carry it in my wallet, close to my heart." She smiles. He goes to have his shower, as he comes out and she is waiting with the camera and takes his photo. He says, "Is that so you can carry my picture with you always?" "No, it's so I can have it enlarged."
Sam and his wife Rachel were playing golf at the club when she drove a 300-yard tee shot straight down the fairway. Sam said, "Wow, I have never seen you play this well before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. A couple of days later, on the tennis court in mixed doubles, she smashes her serves and never misses a point. Sam said to her, "Wow, I have never seen you hit so well before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. On the weekend, they settled into a nice dinner at home. Rachel brings out the perfect plates of beef Wellington, and Sam says, "Delicious. I have never seen you cook like this before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. After dinner, she gives him that look, and they go upstairs. About 30 minutes later, Sam rolls over and says, "Wow. That was incredible, amazing, and so hot. I want a divorce."
Linda decided to tie the knot with her longtime boyfriend, Roy. One evening, after the honeymoon, Linda was organizing her law books. Her husband was standing nearby, watching her. After a long period of silence, he finally speaks, "Linda, I've been thinking, now that we're married, maybe it's time you quit lawyering. You spend so much time in the courtroom. You could probably get a good price for your books." Linda gets this horrified look on her face. Roy says, "Darling, what's wrong? For a minute there, you were beginning to sound like my ex-husband." "Ex-husband," he shouts, chagrined. "I didn't know you were married before." "I wasn't."
"I had lunch with two of my unmarried friends. One is engaged, one is a mistress, and I, the third one, have been married for 20+ years. We were chatting about our relationships and decided to amaze our men by greeting them at the door wearing a black bra, stiletto heels, and a mask over our eyes. We agreed to meet in a few days to exchange notes. Here's how it all went. My engaged friend, the other night, when my boyfriend came over, he found me with a black leather bodice, tall stilettos, and a mask. He saw me and said, 'You are the woman of my dreams. I love you.' Then we made passionate love all night long. The mistress, me too. The other night I met my lover at his office, and I was wearing a raincoat, with only a black bra, heels, and a mask over my eyes. When I opened the raincoat, he didn't say a word, but he started to tremble, and we made wild love all night. Then I had to share my story. When my husband came home, I was wearing the black bra, black stockings, stilettos, and a mask over my eyes. When he came in the door and saw me, he said, 'What's for dinner, Zorro?'"
Ed and Carolyn met while on a singles cruise, and Ed fell head over heels for her. When they discovered they lived in the same city, only a few miles apart, Ed was ecstatic. He immediately started asking her out when they got home. Within a couple of weeks, Ed had taken Carolyn to dance clubs, restaurants, concerts, movies, and museums. Ed became convinced that Carolyn was indeed his soulmate and true love. Every date seemed better than the last. On the 1-month anniversary of their first dinner on the cruise ship, Ed took Carolyn to a fine restaurant. While having cocktails and waiting for their salad, Ed said, "I guess you can tell I'm very much in love with you. I'd like a little serious talk before our relationship continues to the next stage. So, before I get a box out of my jacket and ask you a life-changing question, it's only fair to warn you, I'm a total golf nut. I play golf, I read about golf, and I watch golf on TV. In short, I eat, sleep, and breathe golf. If that's going to be a problem for us, you'd better say so now. Carolyn took a deep breath and responded, Ed, that certainly won't be a problem. I love you as you are, and I love golf too, but since we're being totally honest with each other, you need to know that for the last 5 years I've been a hooker. That's all right? Ed said, I bet it's because you're not keeping your wrists straight when you hit the ball.
A man goes to a marriage counselor all by himself. Confused, the marriage counselor says, This is quite odd, as usually this works better when both partners attend therapy together. Since you already paid for this session, I guess we will just have to pretend she is here and role-play. I'll be your wife. The man instantly stiffens up and looks very nervous. Honey, are you not happy in our marriage? I can't complain about that. Is it the relationship? I can't complain about that either. Well, is it the way I treat you? Nope. I definitely can't complain about that. Getting frustrated about the lack of any insight, the counselor breaks character and says, I don't think this is really going anywhere without your wife present. Why don't you bring her with you? No, that won't work at all. It has to be just you and me. No role-playing either. Well, why is that? To you, I can complain.
Jane was a first-time contestant on the $65,000 quiz show. Lady Luck had smiled in her favor, as Jane had gained a substantial lead over her opponents. She even managed to win the game, but, unfortunately, time had run out before the show's host could ask her the big question. Jane agreed to return the following day. Jane was nervous as her husband drove them home. I've just got to win tomorrow. I wish I knew what the answers are. You know I'm not going to sleep at all tonight. I will probably look like garbage tomorrow. Relax, honey, her husband, Roger, reassured her, it will all be okay. 10 minutes after they arrived home, Roger grabbed the car keys and started heading out the door. Where are you going? Jane asked. I have a little errand to run. I should be back soon. After an agonizing 3-hour absence, Roger returned, sporting a very wide and wicked grin. Honey, I managed to get tomorrow's question and answer. What is it? She cried excitedly. Okay. The question is, what are the 3 main parts of the male anatomy? And the answer is, the head, the heart, and man's private part. The couple went to sleep with Jane, now feeling at ease, plummeting into a deep slumber. At 3:30 a.m., however, Jane was shaken awake by Roger, who was asking her the quiz show question. The head, the heart, and the man's private part, Jane replied groggily before returning to sleep. And Roger asked her again in the morning, this time as Jane was brushing her teeth. Once again, Jane replied correctly. So it was that Jane was once again on the set of the quiz show. Even though she knew the question and answer, she could feel butterflies. The cameras began running, and the host, after reminding the audience of the previous day's events, faced Jane and asked the big question. Jane, for $65,000, what are the main parts of the male anatomy? You have 10 seconds. The head, she said nervously. Very good. 6 seconds. The heart. Very good. 4 seconds. Boo-hoo, darn. My husband drilled it into me last night, and I had it on the tip of my tongue this morning. That's close enough, said the game show host. Congratulations.
After 35 years of marriage, a husband and wife came for counseling. When asked what the problem was, the husband went into a passionate, painful tirade listing every problem they had ever had in the years they had been married. On and on and on. Neglect, lack of intimacy, emptiness, loneliness, feeling unloved and unlovable, an entire laundry list of unmet needs he had endured. Finally, after allowing this for a sufficient length of time, the therapist got up, walked around the desk and, after asking the husband to stand, She embraced and kissed him long and passionately as his wife watched with a raised eyebrow. The man shut up and quietly sat down as though in a daze. The therapist turned to the wife and said, "This is what your husband needs at least 3 times a week. Can you see to it?" "Well," she said, "I can drop him off here on Mondays and Wednesdays, but on Fridays I have book club."
Enjoyed the laughs? Subscribe for more. Hit that button now and never miss the fun. A woman's closet door was making terrible sounds whenever a bus was crossing the street outside, so she called a carpenter to check it out. The carpenter comes to see what's the problem but sees nothing. Right then a bus is crossing the street and a loud creaking sound is heard coming from the closet. He can't believe it, so strange. Says the carpenter to the wife. How unusual. Perhaps if I sit inside before the next bus comes I can see what's making such a noise inside. The wife thinks it's a good idea, if sorry for his time. The carpenter goes inside the closet and gets comfortable, looking at the wood. A few minutes later the husband arrives home. While the wife is in the bathroom, he goes into the bedroom and opens the closet. To his shock, there's a man sitting inside. He throws a look to the bathroom and then slowly turns his face to the carpenter with murder in his eyes. "What the heck are you doing in my house, in my closet?" he growls ominously. Well? The carpenter swallows nervously. "Would you believe me if I told you I'm waiting for the bus?"
A quarrel broke out between a man and a woman while traveling for dinner at a restaurant. They quarreled almost all the way, and just before they arrived, the wife said to the husband, "You are very lucky to have me. No other normal woman will want you." The frustrated husband decided to prove to his wife that she was wrong and find women who would be interested in him already during dinner. The hostess who led them to the table smiled at the husband endlessly, laughed at his jokes, and even offered to take his coat. So of course as soon as she left he turned to his wife with a triumphant look on her face. "Don't get too excited, it's just her job and she's married too." "How do you know?" "Because I saw a ring on her finger." A short time later the husband had to go to the bathroom, and on his way back he collided with the chair of a woman sitting alone at a nearby table. He apologized, ordered her a drink at his expense, talked to her for a few moments, and sat down with his wife again. "Just so you know, she invited me to sit down for a drink with her. Don't get too excited, she's probably half blind." "How do you know?" "Because I saw her enter the restaurant with a walking stick." After a few minutes a waitress went to the table, and as she took the order from the couple it was obvious that she was staring at her husband and flirting with him. "Here. You see?" he said to his wife after the waitress left. "There are normal women who want me. Don't be an idiot, she has corona." "How do you know?" "Because if she's interested in you then she has no sense of taste."
A newly married Liam goes to meet Father Charles. He greets the priest and says, "Father, I need to talk to you." The priest asks, "Is it a confession, my son?" Liam replies, "No, Father. I need to clarify something." The priest takes Liam to his private chamber and says, "Tell me, Liam. What is it?" Liam asks, "Father, why do some women try to change men after marriage? My friends keep teasing me about it." The priest smiled and replied, "Liam, my son, as the bride walks down the long aisle, she excitedly registers 3 stimuli, the altar, the choir, and the sound of the hymn being sung. Aisle, altar, and hymn. She becomes mesmerized. Aisle, altar, hymn. Aisle, altar, hymn. Aisle, altar, hymn. And finally, as she stops beside the groom, she is already saying to herself, I'll alter him." A priest and a nun are on a trip to a faraway monastery when their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere as a blizzard rages above them. They find a deserted cabin and take shelter. They find a sleeping bag, a bed, and a pile of blankets. The priest, being a gentleman, offers the nun the bed and takes the sleeping bag for himself. As they get tucked in for the night, the nun calls out, "Father, Father, I'm cold," so the priest gets up and puts another blanket on the nun. "Is that better, sister?" he asks. "Yes, Father, much better," she replies. So he gets back in his sleeping bag and starts to nod off when she again calls out with, "Father, I'm still cold," so once again, the priest gets up and puts another blanket on her, ensuring she is tucked into the bed well. "Is that better, sister?" he asks. "Oh yes, Father, that's much better," she says. So the priest gets himself back into the sleeping bag, and this time is just starting to dream when he wakes up to her call of, "Father, Father, I'm just so cold." The priest thinks long about this and finally says, "Sister, we are in the middle of nowhere in a blizzard. No one but you, myself, and the Lord himself will ever know what happens here this night. How about, just for this night, we act as though we were married?" The nun thinks on this for a minute. She can't help but admit to herself she's been curious, and finally answers with a tentative, "Okay, Father, just for tonight, we will act as though we are married." "Wonderful." The father replies, "Now get up and get your own darn blanket, you great lazy lump."
Sitting on the edge of the highway, waiting to catch speeders, a state police officer saw a car driving along at 22 miles per hour. He thinks to himself that a car is just as dangerous as a speeder. So he turns his lights on and pulls the car over. Approaching the car, he notices there are 5 old ladies, 2 in the front and 3 in the back, wide-eyed and looking like ghosts. The driver, obviously confused, said, "Officer, I don't understand, I wasn't going over the speed limit. What did you pull me over for?" "Ma'am," the officer said, "you should know that driving slower than the speed limit can also be dangerous." "Slower than the speed limit?" "No, sir. I was doing exactly 22 miles an hour," the old woman said proudly. The officer, trying not to laugh, explains that 22 is the route number, not the speed limit. A little embarrassed, the woman smiled and thanked the officer for pointing out her error. "Before I go, ma'am, I have to ask, is everyone okay? These women seem badly shaken and haven't said a word since I pulled you over." "Oh, they'll be all right in a minute, officer. We just got off Route 142.
Thanks for the laughs. Subscribe for more fun. Until next time, stay tuned and stay amused.